There are a number of reasons to consider federally registering your trademark. Your trademark, which is your company's brand or the names of goods and services that you provide, is a business asset. So for that reason alone, it is something that is important to protect. Now, there are different ways to protect your trademark. In fact, as soon as you make use of your trademark on goods or services, you actually acquire what's called common law rights. The limitation with that is that those rights are geographically limited in scope. So if you use your mark in one area, that is where you acquire rights. So there's some important reasons to go ahead and register your mark with the federal government at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, or the USPTO. And I'm going to talk about 5 different reasons. The first reason is that it provides nationwide constructive legal notice of your rights in that mark. What that means is once your mark is registered, it is actually kept on a database at the USPTO, and that is a notice function, so that anyone in the country who later adopts the same mark is deemed to have notice of your mark, whether they actually know if you're using it or not. So for that reason alone, it's a very important thing to do to go ahead and register. The second is that it provides you expansion rights. What I mean by that is, as I mentioned, as soon as you use a mark in commerce, you have some rights, some limited rights located where you're actually using that mark. So for example, if you use a mark in Des Moines, Iowa, and then later someone else adopts that same mark in a different area of the state or a different part of the country, and you have not registered that mark, you each have independent rights to continue using your mark in your independent areas, which means that you can't then expand into the area where they're already using the mark, because they have priority of rights there. On the other hand, if you were to register your mark when you initially start using it, and your mark is ultimately registered at the USPTO, if someone later adopts the same mark, you now have priority over them. That means that if you expand into their area, you can stop them from continuing to use the mark even if they've been using it already. So you have expansion rights. You can grow your business much more exponentially. The third reason is that you get to use this very exciting R in a circle symbol, the registration symbol, which alone provides notice to people. While people may not understand necessarily what that means when they see it, it tends to imply to people that this is something significant. So you're less likely to have people actually go ahead and even try to adopt a mark if you're using the R in a circle symbol attached to your trademarks. The fourth reason, and this is sort of a broad reason, is that it provides stronger protection. What I mean by that is that in the first 5 years after your mark is registered at the USPTO, you have a presumption, a rebuttable presumption of certain things, of ownership and priority, continued use, validity of your mark, all things that are important if you were to get into a trademark litigation. What this means with the presumption is that typically when you get involved in a litigation, as a plaintiff, you have to prove up certain things. You have the burden of proof. With the presumptions that come with registration, this actually shifts the burden of proof to the defendant. That means that instead of you having to prove that you own the mark or that you have rights in that mark, priority, or that your mark is valid, the defendant needs to disprove that. It's a huge benefit in any litigation. And that benefit actually becomes stronger after you have owned your registration for 5 years and filed certain declarations at the USPTO. At that point, this all becomes conclusive evidence of these same things. And that means essentially that any defendant has very limited ability to defend against trademark infringement if they're using a similar mark on similar goods or services. So incredible benefit there. Additionally, if you have a registration, there's potential for higher damages and attorney's fees that come along with that in any litigation. Still further, if you get into a domain name dispute, so if you're fighting over an internet domain name, having the registration is also incredibly beneficial. It's a good piece of evidence for that. And finally, on the stronger protection issue, you can record any trademark registration with the Customs Border Patrol. And that means that you can actually stop infringing goods from even entering the United States If you have that mark registered, the Customs Border Patrol will be looking for products coming in that might be infringing, and they'll stop them before they're ever sold in the United States. So that alone can be very beneficial to any business. Finally, I'd say that the reason to register your mark is that your registration and your brand and your reputation and goodwill all go hand in hand. This is, as I said, one of your most strongest business assets. And if you want to license your mark, franchise your business rights, if you need additional investors, or you even want to secure a loan, the trademark registration in and of itself is an asset that you can utilize for any of those things. For all of these reasons, I can't emphasize enough that registering your trademark is an important thing to do.